guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a very exciting video that I have been dying to do for so long, and you guys already know what it is. It is my guide to Catherine Cowles. Before I get started, I do want to say my friend Morgan from Nothing Better Than a Book has done a video like this, so I will link her channel down below. Morgan loves small town romances, so if you love small town like I have been loving lately, please check out Morgan's video. But I wanted to do my own video dedicated to one of my new favorite authors, who is Catherine Cowles. I've had the opportunity to interview Catherine on my channel, so I'll link that down below if you're interested, but I am obsessed with her books and her as a person. I got to meet her at Book Bonanza and she's the sweetest, and I just like love her so much, and I shout to the rooftops how much I love her. I wore my angsty readers shirt sweatshirt that I have from Hello Lovely. It is like my literal favorite because I am obsessed with angst, and if you're interested, it's still in their shop, so use my code PEACE15 if you want one. Catherine definitely writes some very sweet romances, but definitely very angsty romances as well. All of them are small town, and almost all of them are also like borderline romantic suspense, so they will have some sort of mystery woven through them, and a lot of times the heroine gets kidnapped and they gotta get out of a situation, so I find them so entertaining, and I'm obsessed with all of her romances, all of her heroes. And I do have a specific order I'm gonna share these in. I'm gonna go from my favorite series to my least favorite series. I still adore all of her series, but I think that the best place to start is at a specific point, and then you can read her other series. I have read every single book she's written except for her first book. I talked to her in the live show and she said her first book was really not indicative of what she is as a writer, because it was a very different vibe from everything else she writes. It's not small town and it has a different plot, so I haven't read it yet, and I felt like I could still do this video without reading that book. So I have read 3 of her series that are almost completed, and they are so bingeable. I will say the audiobooks are perfection. I've listened to most of them on audio. Her new series is the only one I've read physically, but my Hoopla has a lot of her audiobooks, and then I have some from Audible. She has gifted me some credits too for her books, so I was able to finish up the Wrecked series, so thank you to Catherine for that. But make sure you're following her. I will link her down below. I am just obsessed with her books. If you've been following me at all for the past few months, you know I am obsessed. I love small town, and one of her series takes place on an island, and a lot of times she has heroines that are running away from something and very closed off, and the heroes end up being closed off too sometimes. So I'm just gonna get to the series. My entire collection by her. I do have the alternate covers actually of the Tattered and Torn series as well. I felt like that'd be too much to carry. I'm obsessed with her covers. She spot on gets small town romance with her series on their covers. But the first series I think you should definitely check out by her. If you are brand new to her, you need to read her newest series. This is not finished. It will be completed in October. I believe her 4th book actually comes out tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, this video is going up Monday. I believe Shattered Sea is coming out soon, but this is my favorite. It's the Tattered and Torn series. The audiobooks are so good, and the first one is Tattered and Torn. And now the reason I love this one is that it is very much romantic suspense in the fact that it revolves around this family who was kind of like a cult. They're not like actually a cult, but they were doomsdayers. They believed like they couldn't trust anybody, and they can't trust the police, they can't trust medicine, they can't trust their neighbors. Like they literally could not trust anybody. They don't call anybody when there's a problem, and a few of the families were abusive to their children. Our heroine lived in a family where her father kidnapped a little girl. That is a very integral background aspect of this entire series, is that this little girl was kidnapped. Shiloh, we get her book last. We have not gotten her book yet, but we do get her book because our heroine in this book saw that her father had kidnapped a girl, thought she was not going to last alive with her family, and so she rides into town and tells the police what had happened. Her father is furious and goes to jail, and the rest of her family absolutely hates her. So she moves away, and now she is back in town, and the town doesn't like her, especially the hero. His sister was the one that was kidnapped. He is so angry with her, but it more is coming from the guilt he harbors from his sister getting kidnapped. He feels like part of it's his fault, and he takes that out on our heroine. It happens that someone's sabotaging the heroine's farm. She has moved back to her home, and she wants to open up the farm as like an animal rehabilitation center, and so someone starts sabotaging things, and the hero has to help figure out who it is. It is so good. I think that if you love Devney Perry's series, you will love Catherine Cowles, especially the series. This series is so good. I love this one. I've not given anyone in the series less than 4 stars. It's so good and so sweet, and this one's definitely hate to love. This is the only hate to love in the series so far. I'm very excited to read book 5, but the series starts off amazing, but it only gets better. So the next one is actually a brother's best friend romance, and so these two actually grew up together. The heroine and the hero, I think they're both EMTs, so they work together, and the heroine's an adrenaline junkie. She has a really popular YouTube channel, though it's called something else in here, where she does adrenaline stunts and she does hurt herself a lot, and she's actually the sister of the hero in book 1, and it's his best friend she falls in love with, and he is a single dad with twin daughters. I love a single dad romance in a small town. It was so good. This one is definitely more of a slow burn romance because they have known each other for a long time. She's always had a crush on him, but he never wants to proceed with anything with her, and her family's really hard on her though, especially her mother, for what she does, because her mother's very overprotective because of what happened to her sister, and so she feels like she's always been judged and protected too much because of that past, so that's where that also weaves into this book. This one's amazing. This series I definitely recommend reading in order to get the most out of it. I don't think you need to do that for all of her series, but because this one heavily revolves around family, I think it reads better in order. The next one is Hidden Waters, which is so sweet. It might be my favorite. I think it's tied between this one and book 4. This one is actually the cousin of the heroine in book 1. So she grew up in a cult. Her father was very abusive, and so she has decided to leave, and she has moved into the house of the hero from book 1. She is renting out the house. I don't remember if she's paying for it or not, but she's staying there, and the hero's brother from book 1, so another sibling, he is back in town. He was a doctor. He was abroad. He living life large, whatever. Now he's back in town, and he has to move in with her. So it's a roommate's romance. Very sweet romance. He just wants to be there for her. She's very skittish. She grew up in such a very closed off life that she doesn't know a lot about society and about things. Like, she's never had pizza before, and so she has a list of things she wants to do, like drive a car, and so the hero has decided to help her with her list, and like purposely does things to help her experience things. So he'll like bring home Chinese food. He'll stock the fridge with different kinds of pop, and it is the sweetest thing ever. So this one was a super sweet romance. I really loved it. It's definitely friends to lovers. One of my favorites in the series. I just ate it up. And then the next one, which is the one that comes out this week, I got an early copy of it at Book Bonanza in July. This summer I got it. I read it. It's so good. Our heroine has chronic pain from a car accident she was in. She is actually working at the gallery that she gets a job at. So this is not related as a sibling to anyone. This is the only one in the series that's like that. She works at the gallery. She has an adorable dog, and she was in a car accident in high school where she lost her high school boyfriend in that accident. And so she is harboring a lot of guilt over that, and she has to deal with the pain since then. And someone has shown up and is harming people in that accident. So she's a little scared about that. But the hero is an actor. He is in town, and he is studying this horse farm there, and it is like a place where people come for like horses that need to be tamed, I guess. I don't know the real word for it, but they go because they are too wild, and the guy that works there helps them, so he's there to like shadow that guy, and he meets our heroine and is immediately like, I want you, and he is so smitten and is the sweetest to her. He makes sure that she is comfortable. He will do anything to help alleviate any pain she has, and he wants to know everything that she is going through, how she's feeling. It's very sweet. This one is definitely, I feel like, the most romantic suspense out of the series, but it was so good. I really liked it. But like I said, all 4 of these have romantic suspense elements, and I do feel like this is the sweetest series she has. Like, the heroes just fall head over heels. The first one is definitely hate to love, but the rest are very sweet and adorable and have the most amazing covers. I love the color scheme. I'm dying for book 5 because it is the sister story where she had gotten kidnapped and someone that I don't want to spoil. I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm very excited for that final book. But I definitely recommend starting with this series. It is my favorite across the board. They've all been so strong to me, and I love them. So read these if you're going to start with her series. I just can't get enough. The first book was on sale on Audible recently, and I got it because I already want to reread it because it's amazing. Now we're gonna get into the angst. So my second favorite series by her, which is the middle series, is going to be her Wrecked series. This is her second series, so pretty much I'm saying read her books backwards reading order. These you don't necessarily need to read in order. They are better off than the other series to be read as standalones, I think, but I think just knowing the characters, you get the most out of it when you read them all in order, but you don't have to read the series in order. So this one I really enjoyed. I literally finished it the other day, and it's so good. So I read the Sutter Lake series first, then the Tattered and Torn, and then the Wrecked series. So the Wrecked series is my second favorite. We have Reckless Memories. This is so angsty. So this one has another death that happens in high school. So the heroine, her sister dies when she's in high school, and the heroine, and the sister's boyfriend are all in the car together. The heroine's kind of had a crush on the sister's boyfriend, but he's a little bit older, so whenever like turned into anything, he's so horrified about his loss that he leaves. He leaves town and does not come back. He moves to California. He has super successful restaurant businesses, and he's doing really well for himself. So the heroine never leaves town. She stays. She had a really hard recovery and just felt abandoned by the hero because she had such a hard time getting through the accident, and she's alone, and she lost her sister. And so now she is working at his family's restaurant bar, and she lives there as well, and the bar is struggling, and so the hero is called in to help. He shows up, has no idea she's the one that basically runs things. She has no idea he was called in to help. So it's a lot of animosity and clashing when they first meet again, and it's super angsty though, because he has to come to terms with the fact that he didn't see his high school girlfriend as his forever person, but he feels guilty moving on, and he especially feels guilty falling for her sister. So they know society's not gonna like it. One of my absolute favorite tropes is dead siblings significant other, so this one is amazing. Super angsty. I loved it. I will say this next one is the only one I gave 3 stars in this series. It's not my favorite. It is Perfect Wreckage. I listened to the audiobook of this. This series, actually, I believe you can get a box set on Audible. For 1 credit you can get the first 3 books in the series. So I listened to this on audio, and it was fine. The heroine in this one doesn't have the best mother, and so she is raised by someone else who's a very sweet old woman, and now it is the present day, and she's older, she's living on her own, and the woman ends up passing away and left our heroine, this house. Her ex shows up though, saying that the house is his. I think he was related to the woman. I don't remember those details too specifically, but her ex is back in town, and he's like, no, you can't have this, it's mine, and she really wants to keep it, and she was really close to the person who raised her. And so the hero is actually a lawyer in town, and she goes to him for help, and it's their romance. They kind of have like a friends with benefits situation going on before it turns into something more. It was cute. I gave it 3 stars, but it definitely wasn't my favorite, and so that's why I am putting the series second, because there was one in here that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but then just wait till I get to the rest of the books. They're so good. So the next one is Wrecked Palace, and this one, our heroine doesn't have really great parents either, and so they both go to jail, and she's left raising her siblings, and they are a lot younger than her, so she is actually in college when this happens, and it's really sad for her because she has to come back home and give up all of her dreams and struggle to raise her 3 siblings. We see her a lot in the previous 2. These all 3 are really close friends, so these really connect. The hero is really rich, and he comes into town and he sees her. He is running from a past as well. He was lost people that were close to him, and he's kind of hiding from what happened because he can't really trust people after what happened, and he decides to hire her as his chef because she works in the like market convenience store in town, and she like cooks for them, and he's like, hey, I need a personal chef, let me pay you this like crazy amount of money because I know you're struggling, but I'm not gonna tell you I know you're struggling because I want to help you. And so she reluctantly like takes his help, and she's like, okay, if you like, you really need it, but she needs the money, and so she's working for him, and they start falling for each other, and the kids start really enjoying him as well. Very sweet. I definitely consider this a single parent romance, so this one super cute as well, and probably one of my favorite covers. I just love that color combination. The next one though, like, this might be one of my favorites by her. It is so good. So it is Reckless Refuge. This is book 4, but like if you read any, like read this book. She is a caretaker on an island, and she caretakes this island for this family that's not around the island a lot. So she basically like lives on this tiny island by herself. She'll go back into the mainland island sometimes, but she always keeps to herself because her brother is a literal psychopath. So her brother murdered her family and tried murdering her, so she has scars all over her arms, and she is terrified. He went to this like facility, but she knows he's getting out soon, so she has done all this stuff to keep her identity secret, reroutes her mail, she is hiding out. The family decides to sell off their island. They're like, we don't come here anymore, so we're gonna sell it, and they sell it to this artist, and he has bought it because a serial killer was using his art as inspiration for his murders. So the serial killer was caught, but the hero is like horrified that his art did this, and so he's gonna hide out on this island, basically build this studio and make art there. He decides to keep the heroine on because he knows that she worked there, and he's like, okay, like I will still have her as like the keeper of the island. She'll take care of everything. And so she's very nervous, and he brings in a crew onto the island to help build his studio, and they fall in love. But this one also has a lot of suspense in it as well, because someone starts killing people on the main island, and then things are going crazy. And so you're like, oh my gosh, like is the serial killer like really gone that like in jail, like, or was it like a copycat? I don't know. So it was so good. I was obsessed with this book so much. So seriously, this one's Reckless Refuge. Read this one. I just finished this last one too, and it was really sweet. So it is Beneath the Wreckage, and this one, a lot of them deal with people trying to overcome trauma, if you haven't noticed. So this one, the heroine's best friend went missing the summer before, I believe, their freshman year of high school. She went to a party, the heroine decided, I don't want to go, and she never came back. And she's presumed dead, and her best friend would always go to these cabins together on this island and spend the summer there. And so now that she's an adult, she decides to buy up the property. It's been abandoned and closed. She buys the property and she's gonna fix it up. The hero is Hunter, and he actually was in this book, and I can't tell you what happens to him, but I really liked him in this book. He is a like contractor. He helps build stuff, and so she hires him in order to help fix up the lodges, and she has a really cute dog, and she's still really trying to come to terms with the fact that her friend's body was never found, and that's really hard for someone to deal with. There's no closure. And so someone though starts to try to sabotage the lodge that she is trying to renovate, and so things get a little scary. The hero gets very protective, and it is really, really, really sweet. Like, the heroes in all these books are so sweet and adorable, and I loved it. So I still really, really love this series. Almost every book was a 4 or 5 star read. It is so good. Highly recommend this series. Okay, so the last series I have to share with you, which I think you can start last because this is probably my least favorite by her. I still love everything she writes, but the Sutter Lake series was the first series that she wrote, I believe, and they were good books. I only own 2 from the series, though one of them is like my absolute favorite. So I will go ahead and tell you about them. I've got to refresh my memory though, because it's been a while since I've read these. I believe there's also a box set for the audiobooks for these, so check that out. You can do 1 credit on Audible for 3 audiobooks. So the first book, let me double check. I think, yeah, these came out in 2019. So she like pumps out her books. She writes so fast. So she's only been writing for 3 years and has 3 complete series, which is crazy. This one is Beautifully Broken Pieces. This is book 1 in the Sutter Lake series. So the heroine has lost her mother, so she's really grieving, and so she decides to escape into this mountain town and falls for the local sheriff. There's actually someone who is missing in town. This one does get a lot of suspense at the end, because I remember another character that something crazy had happened to her. She gets a later book and she's still really paranoid over what happened to her and has PTSD over what happened to her in book 1. So I really like how they connect. This one as well, you don't as much need to read in order, but I think that it does connect well if you do read them in order. So someone does go missing in here, and so the hero has to figure out like what had happened, and everybody's like on the edge of their seats because someone has taken someone. She actually lives in the guest cabin, and his family rented out their guest cabin to her, and he's very annoyed. The hero is. She does end up getting a job at the tea shop in town, and she's just trying to grieve for her mother and recover from it. So it was definitely very sweet. Not my favorite in the series, but a sweet start to the series. So the next one is Beautifully Broken Life, and I really enjoy this one. Our heroine is running from an abusive husband, and so she changes her name, and I believe she changes how she looks too, and she runs away to Sutter Lake, this small town, and is trying to start over, not have a lot of attention on herself. And the hero is a musician, and I remember now, I have a hard time keeping track of some small town romance series because I read them all at the same time, and I was like, was this author or this author? But he is hiding out in town for a different reason, and he is a musician. He's trying to get his like groove back and write songs, and they meet, and he is instantly very intrigued by her and wants to spend more time with her. I think at first he's like a little wary. He's like, who is this hanging around my friends? And then because he thinks she's hiding something, because she is. She also, I believe, works in the tea shop with the heroine from book 1. And so they spend more time together, but she is like, I cannot be with someone famous. That is the absolute worst thing that could happen to me, because her husband could find her, and so it heavily deals with her trauma from her abusive relationship. So definitely know that before you read this book, but I really liked it. It was a very sweet romance, and I really enjoy when both the hero and heroine have a lot in their past that they're trying to overcome and fall for each other. So really enjoyed book 2. So book 3 is actually the first book I read by her, so it is Beautifully Broken Spirit. I read this a while ago. I read this in 2019, so I don't fully remember what this one is about because it's been 3 years since I read it. I definitely should reread this one. This one, I guess, is another best friend's sister or like brother's best friend romance, and he's always taking care of her, and one day he lets his walls down and they fall for each other. I definitely want to reread this because it's been way too long, and I read it as a standalone in the series. I think I'll enjoy it a lot more now that I've read all the other books in the series, but just know that this is another brother's best friend romance. She has so many good tropes, like all the tropes you could want, you can find in all of her series. The next one is actually my favorite one, and that is Beautifully Broken Control, and this one has another millionaire hero, and our heroine is on the run from a past because her dad cheated people out of like millions of dollars, and so he stole money. She got to live this lavish life because her dad was stealing money, and she's horrified that that had happened, and so people are giving her death threats. She actually is the one who turned her dad in, but people still blame her, so she is hiding out in Sutter Lake, and the hero is a millionaire, and he is intrigued by her. He wants to date her, and she hates money. She cannot stand money anymore. She volunteers all of her time at shelters and like the soup kitchen, and he shows up and she's like, "You're rich? I don't want anything to do with you." He is not used to his money being a turnoff to women, and so he is like, excuse me? So he has to find out a way to show her he's a good guy and really cares for her, and I just really like this. I love it when one of the characters is on the run from something and doesn't trust the other one, and the hero, it was so refreshing having to work for the heroine, even though he was rich and only like gets anything he wants. It was so good. I really love this one. The last one kind of ties in to the previous one. So this one is Beautifully Broken Redemption, and it's very sweet. It is a marriage of convenience. Obsessed with this cover. So the heroine has made really bad choices in her life. She was with a really bad guy who got thrown in jail and blamed what he did on her. So she went to prison as well. She just like, everything did not work out for her. Her parents wouldn't help her. Her lawyer was horrible. So she took the fall for something that wasn't her problem. But now she is released, and she is trying to start a new life, but she finds it really hard. And so I think she either, I don't know if she worked at the shelter or like was part of the shelter, that I think she didn't have a place to live. So she was living at the shelter that the heroine from the previous book worked at, and her sister ends up being murdered, and her sister has 2 kids, I believe, and the heroine really wants to take over the children because her father's very abusive, and she's like, my niece and nephew are not going to go and live with my father. She's trying to take custody. Her sister left them to her, but her parents are fighting it, and so the heroine knows that with her record, she cannot get custody of these kids. So the hero is super, super sweet. I'm pretty sure he works for the shelter as well, like he volunteers there, and he sees her situation. He really likes her though, and he offers to marry her so that she can have a better case to get the children. It is so, so sweet. Again, we just have a so sweet hero. I just love her heroes so much. Like, I swoon over them. Treat your woman so kindly and just protect her and give her the world. Like, I swoon over that. And so that's what the hero in this one did. Definitely a little awkward because it is a marriage of convenience. They have to act married and explain to the kids like the whole situation, but it was super sweet. A great end to the series. Like I said, all of her books are so good. Like, even though I have like a favorite and a least favorite series, I still recommend all of these. There's only like 1 or 2 that I gave like a solid 3. The rest of her backlist I've given 4 or 5 stars because she just knocks it out of the park every single time, and I'm obsessed with her books. So those are all the books that I have to recommend. There were 5 series with 5 books each, so 15 books. Definitely start with the Tattered and Torn series. Well, almost 15 books because the new one's coming out soon, but start with the Tattered and Torn series, then move on to the Wreck series. If you like angst, read the Wreck series, and then you can read the Sutter Lake series. Just know a ton of them have romantic suspense elements, and they're so good, and they have the small town, wholesome, cute feeling going on that I really love. So check out Catherine Cowles if you have not yet. I adore her so much, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've read her books and what your favorite is by her. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.